This is Dental All Stars, where we bring you the best in dentistry on marketing, management, and training. Here's your host, Alex Nottingham.
Welcome to Dental All Stars. Our topic today, kind of borrowing the subheadline from Todd's podcast, is winning the war. And we're going to be winning the war on dental insurance today. So Dr. Todd Snyder, you're a dentist, race car driver, consultant. You do it all. Tell me a little bit about your journey in dentistry. Tell me.
You know, coming out of dental school like anyone, I had a residency that I did, some kind of additional training, and then went to work for numerous different people over a period of, 4 or 5 years while I was running the graduate program at UCLA. And, in doing so, you learn a lot about different businesses because let's face it, every dental office is a unique and different business. Although we're all providing dentistry, they're all uniquely different in how we perform and the systems we have and how we interact with our patients or customers, whatever you want to call them. And so for me, in seeing how much extra time and effort went into dealing with insurance companies and how many employees you have to go look up someone's insurance or follow up on insurance and all the headaches and hassles that we as dentists know we have to deal with on a regular basis, I said, you know what? I don't like that aspect of the business. And I'm sure most dentists would agree that that's probably one of the biggest pains or difficulties in their business. And from there, the other thing that I found in working for other people that were contracted with insurance is that, my hands were tied as far as what I could do or what the insurance allowed and what they'd reimburse me for my time, effort, and skill. And for certain things that I like to do, which are more cosmetic based, they obviously don't cover things. If it takes me 3 hours and they're willing to pay me $75, that doesn't work. I'm exaggerating, but they pay peanuts. And so if you're going to do a really good job for somebody, that takes time and effort and potentially more overhead. And so I decided after seeing that that's not what I wanted in my business. And so when I opened my business back in 2001, when I opened that business, I said, I'm not going to take insurance, but I will certainly bill it on behalf of my patients. So they get their reimbursements, they get their money back, they feel good that they got their benefit, but I'm not beholden to anyone that's telling me how to do my job and pay me peanuts for the time and effort I want to put into my craft.
Yeah. And I remember when I was younger, and I mentioned this a few times, as many of you know, my father's a dentist. And I remember when he started to take insurances, I didn't understand what that was all about when I was a kid, but he was Panky trained dentist, fellow AGD, did it all, did high-end cosmetic cases, and was the best in his community. But he felt the pressure and he capitulated to taking dental insurance. And he always said, don't be a dentist because you're not going to get paid appropriately. And to my surprise, over the years working at All-Star Dental Academy and seeing that there are dentists out there that stood up and don't take it. And many of our dentists now are getting off insurance, that there's another way. It's just remarkable to me that, you saw it. Now, you saw it from teaching and having a broader perspective. It wasn't just your experience. You heard from multiple sources what their experience was.
Well, that and still lecturing to this day, I hear the same thing. I was lecturing in Portland yesterday, and a gentleman was sitting in my veneer class saying that, I used to do veneers. I don't do them anymore because for the time and effort that goes into it, the insurance doesn't pay us enough because of their capitated rate. And I said, yeah, it's pretty hard to do high-end cosmetics based on what they're willing to pay you. And he says, that's why I don't really offer it. I don't do many. I said, no, I totally get where you're at. But for the same token, just about everyone inside of my Legion program is getting off insurance. And they're, the big fear is, oh my gosh, I'm gonna lose all my patients and this is gonna happen and doom and gloom. And then they find out no, patients are staying and things are better. I'm finally getting compensated and not writing off, $700,000, $800,000 a year kind of thing. And so you hear all these success stories of everyone that was afraid to go out of network. And then they find it was far easier than they ever thought. And they're like, why didn't I do this 20 years ago? It's like, exactly. Yeah. Why didn't you? But your fears and your comfort held you back.
Yeah. And I want to get to that. And gosh, I wish I knew what I do now, and I can tell my father back then. Now, fortunately, I had a chance to take my father's business, double his business. He did quite well, and at that time when we were growing his business, we got self-pays. We got people that didn't care about insurance. They wanted the top-notch stuff that insurance wouldn't cover anyway. it's just enlightening to see. And it's nice. I mean, as insurance companies continue to gain market share, you're seeing at the same side that dentistry is responding, and they're saying, wait a second, we have a say, which is really nice. And I love how you're a fellow of AACD, correct?
Yeah.
And multiple organizations, and you lecture there and you see on the ground floor what's happening. So let's go back to that. And this was my next question. You're reading my questions, Todd. Stop it. Okay. And what I want to know is about that. You're saying fear, but why are dentists on so many plans? What's happening?
I can't speak for all of them. I assume people are on it thinking that the more insurance plans they're on, the more people that can come to their office. That their perception may be, and I'm generalizing, but the perception may be, well, people won't come to me if I don't accept their insurance. And I'm here to tell you that's not true, because I would say 60% of my patients don't even have insurance, right? And they're willing to come to me, right? And the 40% that do have insurance, well, they chose to come to me also. So why does one choose versus the other choose? They're making a choice because they didn't like something where they were at previously, and they're willing to pay for something they want that they perceive as being better. The same as you and I may go to different stores to shop and buy different clothes or shoes or jewelry. We all pay for different things based on the perception of the value and quality we derive for ourselves. And so if you can position that in your marketing or your communication with a patient, that you provide something potentially different and they value that and are willing to pay for that, then people will come to you. And so that's where I think oftentimes dentists focus much on the dentistry and just look at, hey, the patients, they only want what insurance covers. And so I'm just going to offer everything to everyone that's on insurance. And in doing so, that's fine. I consider you to be like a Costco or Walmart. You're doing everything for everyone at a lower price point. And that can be fine, but you're going to be running on that treadmill 7 days a week trying to make peanuts.
From a marketing perspective, right, is often they'll say, okay, it's a marketing expense. Yeah. And what some will say is, well, just get on them and then you can get off them, right? But if you go down into it and you look, what marketing program will you pay 40% of the revenue? You would never take a marketing plan like that. You're supposed to spend about 5%. What's remarkable, what we find with when we do the analysis, you really get very few patients when it comes to PPOs. You get very few from them, directly from them. It's more like you're serving people that call and we say, yeah, we accept your insurance. And what's remarkable as well, what you're explaining is many plans allow you to be out of network, so you still can help the patient with that benefit, but you can charge your fees.
Exactly. Well, and the other interesting thing is I can't speak to all insurance, but the majority of insurance I've ever seen pays me higher as an out-of-network dentist than being in-network, which becomes interesting because most people think like, wait, you're paid more? Like, yeah. I'm amazed how many dentists don't know that, And so in my mind, it's like, okay, well, if you dropped insurance and you lost 50% of your patients, but your fees went up, let's say 25, 30%, 40%, whatever it is you write off, you go, well, so I could lose half my patients, but my pay stays almost the same. And then now I'm spending more time with family and friends, and I have freedom to enjoy life. And so you look at that and go, wow, there's a huge upside to that. And so and that's if you, worst case scenario, you lost 50%. I imagine if people love you and come to you and appreciate you, 50% aren't leaving.
Typically it's 10%. So you're netting 40 out of this deal.
There you go.
Plus.
Right.
Totally makes sense. Now, often, and I've heard you in your lectures, you talk about the box that you create for yourself. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of dentists are, again, many of you are engineer-like. Not everyone is special like you, Todd, that has that business speaking capability and can see, pick on you. But we're often told what to do. And when we're in school for so long, this is how you do it. And this is the status quo, that you're going to take insurance, they control the marketplace, and it almost is like, I just have to capitulate, right? Yeah. Whether it's take insurance or work for a large corporate provider, and this is going to be my life, right? But what's nice about the messaging we're talking here is that you really do have a choice. So what do you say to people? What do you say to dentists that are on that treadmill to kind of snap them out of it?
Well, there's a lot of different conversations that happen along that. But, you know, basically the first thing is in talking to a dentist, what are you happy about right now in your business? Most of them don't have a lot to say. And they might find one or two things, but it's like, there's not much. Okay, now tell me what you dislike. And they'll list a slew of things like, I don't like this insurance thing. I don't like that thing. And like, I have to work too hard. My employee, like they start to complain about so many things. And you go, okay, let's pick one of those. And so when you talk about, okay, this one problem, in this case, we're talking about insurance. If we were to eliminate that one problem, how would you feel? They're like, oh my God, things would be amazing. Okay, if they're amazing, why don't you do something? And the next thing out of their mouth is always fear or comfort. Like, well, I might lose all my business and my livelihood, and I've been doing this too long, and I can't go backwards. And so they create all these excuses and fears and stories. And so when you expose them to it and say, okay, so you want out, but what you're telling me is that you don't have the capacity to look fear in the face and say, no, I'm in charge. I'm changing things. I'm breaking down these walls and I'm going through. And we know fear is wrong 90% of the time. It's false. It's your body trying to keep you comfortable and safe. And so once you start to see that and someone's pushing you and you start to make little strides, like you drop one insurance plan, the smallest one you had, and you go, wow, one person left and now I'm making more money with that simple decision. And you go, oh my gosh, the fear instantly starts to fade away. And you go, okay, now I feel stronger and more powerful. And I'm going to start to drop more of them. And you get this momentum and this mental fortitude building up and this kind of, newfound enthusiasm. Like I finally get that freedom I've been wanting and I haven't done anything. And that momentum grows and builds. And the next thing you know, 9 months later, you're like, I should have done this 20 years ago. And all it took was someone to light a fire under you and show you and give you a little tiny push.
Fear. You have to face it. And what you're talking about is exposure therapy, essentially, little by little. Often we think this big bad bear, we have to go right at it. You can take little chunks at it. And it's very important that you're coached and you have a proper support system to help you through it. Because when you realize you're not alone, that others have done it, and it's a workable model, we then do it slowly. Because there is a risk. There are some dentists out there that are very cavalier, and I'm like sick of it. That's often what happens. I'm sick of it. I'm getting off the insurance. I've known some dentists that have done that have been reported to me, and they went bankrupt.
Yeah, they did it incorrectly.
They did it incorrectly. And so it's very important. There's some steps you have to take. You have to prepare, do the analysis. What insurances are hurting me the most? And like Todd said, you incrementally remove them. And there's a process for it. And you have to train properly your team to then be able to execute. I'm going to give an example of a big mistake that happened, but Todd, you wanted to say something.
No, I was going to say, yeah, definitely. Because the number one thing is training your employees, which we know 90-something%. And your research shows that, 98, 99% don't train their staff. So if you're thinking you're going to drop insurance, you better get trained before you do so. But I'll take it a step further. I think the same as if it was your mother or brother or wife or whomever, and you're going to do something that is significant in their mind. You want to have a conversation before you do it. So that could be, simply sending out letters in the mail, but that's not personal enough. I would say talking to each person over time, whether it's a phone call, or a text message saying, hey, I'd like to talk to you, and let's set up a phone call. And you say, wow, I've got so many patients. That's going to take a long time. It will, but it's going to pay huge dividends when it's all said and done. But most people are too afraid or too busy to do these things. And so for me, everything I do is what would everyone not do? Right? That's what I'm doing. I do the opposite of what other people do.
You're right. It's the same thing with investing. If you invest what everybody else is investing, you will get what everybody else gets. So you want to do what other people aren't doing. Now, what you're speaking about is very important. And part of the reason that dentists, a lot of dentists, they're not confrontational. They don't want to have, they're approval addicted, and they don't want to hear a no, and they don't want to have that problem. So either they stay on insurance, or they'll just say, just send the letter. Because if they don't send the letter, the insurance provider will once you get off, and they're going to run. Because what it's saying essentially is, we can't see you here. Right. And you have to have a conversation that we absolutely can see you here. We will still work through the benefit, nothing changes. And you have to have that conversation. And that conversation will also build more rapport with the patient. You can use it as an opportunity to provide more treatment. So there's a way to do it. And Todd is exactly right on the method to be able to go. Now, give you an example that even besides all of that, there's a structural process of getting off insurance. There's a plan. And that's why we talk about this preparation stage before you get to execution and then maintenance. Now, there was a case that a team member, and we have this recorded, they pick up the phone and basically they got off this insurance plan. They did it the right way, but they didn't train the front. And the patient says, you take whatever insurance, XYZ insurance. And they wanted to get all this cosmetic work done. They wanted to do, it was a 40,000 potential case. They said, no, we don't take your insurance. Click. Now,
Exactly.
there wasn't any education about the fact that this plan was an out-of-network plan that paid you appropriately. And B, most of it wasn't covered in terms of the cosmetic work. So didn't have that conversation.
Right.
Gone because they weren't trained. And so this has to be strategic. And what a lot of dentists and a lot of failed business people do is they're not strategic. They're tactical. How can I make this boo-boo go away without being diligent and having the right coaching around them? Or what's the cheapest way of doing it? I'm going to listen to Todd and Alex on a 20-minute podcast, and now I'm enlightened and I know exactly what to do. I'm pulling the trigger tomorrow. So remember, Todd, this podcast, we got to keep it G-rated or PG-rated. So we have a few words for that. But come on, don't be silly. There's a process. Do your due diligence. Have the best people around you. So that's my saying.
Well, that's why my podcast is called Delusional.
And and you have an E on it. You're allowed to curse in your podcast. So we'll have to bleep it.
I think I do it like once or twice here and there, and they're tame words.
Okay, so what I'd like to also talk about is that you do have some help when it comes to this. Both Todd and I, our programs can help you get off insurance. Just a quick thing, we have a free webinar that we launched. It's allstardentalacademy.com/freedom. It's how to get off insurance. We talk about that, to break free from insurance dependence, and allstardentalacademy.com/freedom. I'll put the link in the show notes. And we go through 3 stages: preparation, execution, and then maintenance, or optimization, we call it. And we go through in more detail, it's 90 minutes, on how to get off insurance safely. Todd, thank you so much for helping us win the war on dental insurance.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it.
Make sure you follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And the great benefit of following us is immediately when these episodes come out, you get them right to your phone, as well as you help us get in front of all of your dental friends and share these podcasts with your friends. We do this to help everybody and to make a difference in dentistry. So we really appreciate you being on the show. And until next time, go out there and be an all-star.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Dental All-Stars. Visit us online at allstardentalacademy.com.